It's midday. Good afternoon. Here is the world news, read by Tinu Aino Badijo. First, the headlines. Federal government approves over $1 million for evacuation of Nigerians in Sudan. Sudan's army expressed willingness to extend ceasefire. United States, South Korea agree on key nuclear weapons deal. Now the news in full. The Federal Executive Council has approved $1.2 million for the immediate evacuation of Nigerians stranded in war-torn Sudan. Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Oyama made this known while addressing State House correspondents on the outcome of the Council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. According to Oyama, the amount would be spent on the hiring of luxury buses that would transport the stranded Nigerians from Khartoum, the Sudanese capital, to Egypt, from where they would be airlifted to Nigeria. Also speaking, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Zubairu Dada, said no Nigerian died in Sudan since the conflict broke out 15th April. Dada said government also arranged for security support and transportation for the Nigerians to Egyptian border. The National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, has announced the availability of frequency slots in 600 MHz spectrum band for sale in a bid to save television broadcasting from extermination. According to NBC, if the sale of the primary spectrum allocated to broadcasting is allowed, all television stations' frequency, which include Free View, DTT, Pay TV, private television station, NTA community, and state government-owned station operating within the range of 476 to 700 megahertz will be affected. It calls on the Nigeria Communication Commission (NCC) to rise up to the occasion of its responsibility by protecting the sector, which is its primary aim. The agency stressed that the NCC has not delivered on the digital switchovers it was capitalizing on. The Lagos State Materials Testing Laboratory has proposed new laws for compulsory compliance to building materials quality. Its general manager, Funsho Ilulade, said a new law was on the way to make substandard construction impossible in the state. Ilulade made this known at the 4th edition of the Builders Business Workshop organized by the Nigerian Institute of Building in Ikeja. According to him, agency was currently under pressure for mass testing of buildings because its sister agency had recommended hundreds of defective buildings for demolition. He said adherence to material quality and abiding by other ethical principles of construction could avert collapse, adding that the new law to force compliance would soon be enacted. Sudan's army has expressed willingness to extend the ceasefire as paramilitary force has battled on Khartoum's outskirts, undermining a truce in their 11-day conflict. The army said its leader, General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, gave initial approval to a plan to extend the truce for another 72 hours and send an army envoy to South Sudan capital, Juba, for talks. According to reports, Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) previously agreed to a 3-day ceasefire that was due to expire later today. There was no immediate response from the RSF to the proposal from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, a regional bloc. The military said the presidents of South Sudan, Kenya and Djibouti worked on a proposal that includes extending the truce and talks between the two forces. Ugandan's President Yoweri Museveni has asked legislators to make clear in proposed anti-homosexuality law that it is not criminal to merely identify as gay as part of an attempt to tone down a bill that has drawn international condemnation. Last month, legislators in the East African country overwhelmingly passed the proposed legislation, potentially one of the world's harshest anti-lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender laws, and sent it to the president for approval. Reports say the planned law criminalizes a broad range of homosexual activity, including promoting or abetting the lifestyle, and imposes stiff penalties, including death, for aggravated homosexuality. The law has been widely criticized by human rights defenders, Western governments, and corporations. This world news comes to you from Radio Lagos 107.5 FM. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is inspiring others to move beyond it.
For this Naija wey we dey so, say you no hold cash no mean say wahala dey o. You wan send money to Male for Villa, just use Momo. You wan buy recharge card or data, just use Momo. You wan pay for market wey you buy, just use Momo. You fit use Momo run plenty things without cash, as long as you get Momo account. No cash, no wahala, and e dey easy to open o. Just dial *671# to open Momo account. Set your PIN, transfer money from your bank account inside your Momo account. Make you fit dey pay for anything, send and receive money sharp because life dey simple with Momo.
You're still listening to the world news from Radio Lagos 107.5 FM. The United States and South Korea have secured a landmark deal to counter the North Korean nuclear threat. According to reports, Washington agreed to periodically deploy U.S. nuclear-armed submarines to South Korea and involve Seoul in its nuclear planning operations. In return, South Korea agreed to not develop its own nuclear weapons. United States President Joe Biden said the Washington Declaration will strengthen the Allies' cooperation in deterring a North Korean attack.
Today, it's our duty to answer the call, that call, to make the world better for those who will come after. You know, this visit, it's about a commitment to bear one another's concerns and listen to each other's dreams. It allows us to overcome every difficulty and with great determination. But the decisions we make now are going to determine the course of our future for decades to come. But I've never been more optimistic about our nations, what we can achieve together if we continue to work together as allies and as friends.
The U.S. already has a treaty obligation to defend South Korea and has previously pledged to use nuclear weapons if necessary. But some in South Korea have started to doubt that commitment and call for the country to pursue its own nuclear program. The World Health Organization (WHO) has launched a new initiative to help strengthen countries' ability to plan for and deal with another deadly pandemic like COVID-19. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said at a news briefing that the agency would launch its fourth strategic preparedness and response plan next week, since the first at the start of the COVID-19 emergency in February 2020. Ghebreyesus said the guidance provides a joined-up approach for responding to the threat of any respiratory pathogen such as flu and range of coronavirus that have the ability to rapidly mutate into different variants. According to him, the new Preparedness and Resilience for Emerging Threats initiative incorporates the latest tools and approaches for shared learning and collective action established during the COVID-19 pandemic and other recent public health emergencies. Funeral rites in honor of Mrs. Olayinka Adenike Adelore will commence with a service of songs on Thursday at the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Beautiful Gate Parish, Plot 1-2, Abiola Bolaji Street, Praise Hill Estate, Arikpo. Funeral service will hold Friday at 11 in the morning at Aton Cemetery, Yaba. Aged 52, late Mrs. Olayinka Adenike Adelore, was until her death Deputy Director, News, Radio Lagos, Eco FM. She is survived by her husband, children, and aged parents. Now business news. The Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency has warned against importation of substandard electricity materials into Nigeria. Its managing director, Aliyu Tahiru, who is also Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation, gave the warning at the 2023 first quarter interactive session with energy reporters in Abuja. Tahiru said the agency was collaborating with Standard Organization of Nigeria, security agencies and other stakeholders to ensure that only standard electrical materials were imported into Nigeria. He said NEMSA had begun removing such materials across the country, adding that 68,168 substandard materials were removed in 2022. And on sports, Chelsea interim manager Frank Lampard has agreed that fans should be worried after the team suffered their 5th straight defeat following his appointment as caretaker manager against Brentford. The Blues failed to score for the 6th game in their last 7 and saw their woeful record continue after conceding 2 goals to hand their West London rivals Brentford the win. Club captain Cesar Azpilicueta netted an own goal before a Brian Mbeumo strike late on likely condemns Chelsea to a bottom half finish for the first time since 1996. Just before we go, consider this thought. The beauty of genuine brotherhood and peace is more precious than diamonds or silver or gold, says Martin Luther King. To end the world news, here are the main points. The Federal Executive Council has approved $1.2 million for the immediate evacuation of Nigerians stranded in war-torn Sudan. Sudan's army expressed willingness to extend the ceasefire as paramilitary force has battled on Khartoum's outskirts, undermining a truce in their 11-day conflict. And the United States and South Korea have secured a landmark deal to counter the North Korean nuclear threat. That ends the world news, edited by Bolanle Faduba and broadcast from Radio Lagos 107.5 FM. Join us on Facebook at Radio Lagos 1075 and Instagram at Radio Lagos 1075. You can also tweet at us at Radio Lagos 1075. You can reach our newsroom on WhatsApp 081 1900 345. We stream live on radiolagos1075.com and Radio Garden. I am Tinu Aino Badijo. Good afternoon.